let's give out our boom and bust players of the week. And for the first time this season, I believe we have a consecutive boom player of the week because Rico freaking Dowdle said, hey, my former team, they better buckle up. He goes out there and carries the ball 30 times, 183 yards, 4 catches for 56, which led the team, and a touchdown. Scores over 30 fantasy points, just drops a hammer on his former team in the Dallas Cowboys as the lead running back for the Carolina Panthers. He said, buckle up, and they did not buckle up. So, Chris, Rico Dowdle. I mean, Rico Dowdle, the best running back in fantasy. Rico Dowdle doing a LaDainian Tomlinson impression. Like, what is happening right now in the NFL?
They're trusting their running back to actually deliver on his promises, and Dowdle did just that. I mean, 6.1 yards per carry, which is just insane looking at just the concerns we had for the Carolina offensive line coming into this game. And on top of that, 66.7% rushing success rate. That's tied for 11th among all running backs so far throughout this season. Having back-to-back games with 200 plus scrimmage yards. You are talking about putting his name alongside some of the all-time greats doing this in 2 consecutive weeks. So I'm with you, man. If you wound up picking him up and starting him a couple of weeks ago when Chuba Hubbard's calf injury popped up, you have to feel pretty great about this. And also thinking about what the Panthers are going to try and do moving forward, this could wind up being a committee. It's hard to put this genie back in the bottle, seeing how well he's been able to operate over these past couple of weeks. So at the very least, you've got I would say, committee back, or let's say a mid to high end RB2, just looking at how well Rico Dowdle has been able to play over these past 2 weeks.
I want to kind of unpack that idea of putting the genie back in the bottle. I love the way you framed that. I want to unpack that when we get to that game, which we're going to get to that game first, so we'll be here in just a few moments. But yeah, just to throw it back up, one of the tweets that we had earlier from Ryan McDowell, great stat from him, one of our friends in the industry. Players with 30 plus with multiple 30 plus fantasy point games this season. Jonathan Taylor, sure. George Pickens, yeah, he's balling out, and Rico Dowdle. Yeah. Like that's where Rico is right now. He has been sure, why not? He's been incredible the last 2 weeks. Now, obviously there's been some, it couldn't have been better from a matchup perspective. Like sometimes it just is who you play, right? The Dolphins are terrible. The Cowboys are terrible. These are 2 of the best running back matchups you can possibly get. But there's a difference between like, oh yeah, he had a good matchup and he went out and had a nice game, and he absolutely was the smash of the week, which is what Rico Dowdle was for a second consecutive game. So we're going to unpack more of what this means for Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard and the entire Panthers offense when we get to that game in just a second. But before we do that, we have to give out, unfortunately, our bust player of the week, which was Garrett Wilson. And this is one of those, it's not your fault. It's not your fault type of games. There was certainly a couple of moments where maybe Garrett Wilson, who got 8 targets on the day, could have called one pass in here or there. But when you're a wide receiver 1 and you catch 3 for 13 and just overall one of the most disgusting receiving box scores I can remember seeing in my life, something went systemically wrong with the team, Chris, which is exactly what happened in this game. The Jets completed 9 passes. Justin Fields completed 9 passes in this game, which is bad enough, right? But when you juxtapose that to the fact that they took 9 sacks, the Broncos sacked Justin Fields 9 times as well, that means nobody's going to have a good game in fantasy, which Garrett Wilson absolutely did not do.
No, and we were trying to get through, or at least pay somewhat attention to this game earlier this morning, although I probably needed a few extra sips of coffee while we were trying to process what the heck was going on the field during most of that contest. But I would say adding insult to injury, or it's more like injury to insult, because Garrett Wilson winds up leaves with a hip injury afterwards because he got walloped at the back end on that 4th down play along the left sideline. So concerns about even his availability, not his productivity, but even he's going to be available after they get back from London. So this is just one of these teams where, and we knew this kind of coming into this game, where they've had these slow starts to games where they don't typically wake up until the 4th quarter, and they couldn't even do that this week. So now that we have something that's really starting to becoming a problem with that entire offense, trying to start any of the Jets moving forward is probably going to be a non-starter for a lot of folks, unless you have maybe Breece Hall and, of course, Justin Fields for his rushing production. But even he probably feels like he's on the outs in terms of being a weekly starter.
and they get that Panthers defense next week, which I mean would be a great spot for guys like Garrett Wilson or Mason Taylor if you had to use him at tight end. It'd be a great spot for them to bounce back. But you mentioned Garrett Wilson; he's actually getting an MRI for a knee injury, not a hip injury. It was labeled a hip injury at the end of that game, but apparently it's a knee injury according to Connor Hughes. So his availability might be in doubt next week, and it's just unfortunate because this is the type of spot where Garrett Wilson could have a bounce back, but we'll see if he can play, if he is healthy. But man, that was one of the most discouraging performances I've seen from an offense. I think it's the worst offensive performance of the season. I believe they had like minus 10 net yards in passing in this game because of the yards they lost due to sacks. That is beyond pathetic. And that might not even be the most pathetic thing from the game, Chris. This spoiler alert, this game's in the email. I don't even think we're going to be talking about the Jets at all later. But so just to hammer the point home now, I thought the coaching and the in-game decision-making from the Jets was flat out embarrassing in this game, to the point that Garrett Wilson, at the end of the first half, there was a play where he's kind of like throwing his hands up like we all were. Mm-hmm. If you were not watching that game, if you made the right choice and slept in and did not watch this game, I can't even put into words what happened at the end of the second half. But essentially, the Jets just decided, hey, we're not going to score, which is fair. You probably are. So we're not even going to try to like throw the football to get down the field to put points on the board before the half ends, because we get the ball back in the half at the other side of the half. So we're just going to try to play keep away from the Broncos in the 2-minute drill. It was insane. It was wild. And then Garrett Wilson, there was a moment between Aaron Glenn and Garrett Wilson at the end where Wilson just looks flabbergasted. And he said after the game, I just didn't know exactly what the plan was. Once I figured it out, I was disappointed. Which,
that speaks volumes, man.
It says it all. That just puts the perfect bow on the top of this bust player of the week performance for Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and that's where I would say these are the types of comments we're going to get from at least one of their star players or their starting players coming out of this game, it's going to probably have the ripple effect across the rest of the team, to the point where we're going to have some concerns about any sort of coaching changes, or even just how much longer we're going to see Fields on the field as their starting quarterback moving forward. So I have some general concerns about starting anybody with an NYJ next to their name.
I am also very concerned as well. Aaron Glenn was actually asked after the game if Justin Fields is going to start next week, and he replied, "What kind of question is that?"
A good one?
A good one. A worthwhile question, actually, Coach Glenn. I think it's kind of a worthwhile question. So we'll see what happens with the Jets, but nothing good happened for them on Sunday.